This ancient Egyptian mummy has terrified archaeologists for over a century. Hello and welcome to the Ancient History Channel. My friend, have you ever been sitting still when suddenly you get goosebumps just from thinking about the past? Not because you're cold, but because human history is sometimes stranger than science fiction. For thousands of years, beneath layers of earth that seem lifeless and silent, countless ruins, traces, and secrets of ancient civilizations have been quietly waiting to be revealed. Every time an archaeological site is excavated, it isn't just soil and stone being dug up, it's an entire story, buried for centuries, suddenly finding its voice. Think about it for a moment. Is what we learned in history books really the whole truth? Or is it just the tip of the iceberg? There are ancient structures that even today leave modern science scratching its head, unable to understand how people long ago managed to build them. There are mummies, ancient tombs, and mysterious artifacts that make even the most experienced archaeologists swallow hard in unease. Some discoveries have even forced scientists to ask a difficult question. Have we been underestimating our ancestors? History may sound distant, but in reality, it is far closer to us than we might think. Every ancient stone, every fragment of bone, every artifact that is uncovered is like a missing puzzle piece, helping to complete the picture of humanity's past. And the more pieces we put together, the more unbelievable that picture becomes. So in today's video, we will explore some of the strangest and most shocking archaeological discoveries ever recorded. These stories won't just leave you wide-eyed in amazement, they may also make you question everything you once thought was obvious. So what, in the end, is hidden beneath the dust of time? Stay right here and let's uncover these secrets together, starting right now. The untouchable mummy of ancient Egypt, a 2,300-year-old mystery still unsolved. Did you know that among the countless mummies discovered in Egypt, there is one body that has made archaeologists cautious for more than 100 years? This is the mummy known as Bashiri, also referred to by the haunting nickname the Untouchable, meaning it cannot be touched. Hearing this, many of you are probably curious. Who was this man that has made the entire world keep its distance for so long? If so, let's turn back the clock to early 1919. At that time, the renowned Egyptologist Howard Carter discovered this mummy in the Valley of the Kings, near the ancient city of Luxor, Egypt, 3 years before he famously uncovered the tomb of Tutankhamun. But while Tutankhamun became famous for his treasures, Bashiri became famous for a very different reason. No one dares to open him. What sets the Bashiri mummy apart lies in its wrapping technique. The linen bandages are arranged in a way never before seen on any other mummy. When you look closely at the face, you can see the strips of linen forming intricate crisscrossed patterns that immediately evoke the architecture of the Egyptian pyramids. This level of precision suggests that the embalmer was a true master, and that the individual being mummified was certainly no ordinary person. The problem is, the fastest way to determine his true identity would be to unwrap the mummy. Ironically, doing so could permanently destroy this one-of-a-kind embalming technique. Even the smallest mistake could cause the entire priceless original to be lost forever. For this reason, scientists have been forced to take the more difficult path, studying the mummy without touching it at all. And it is precisely because of this that the saying, "No archaeologist has dared to lay a hand on it," was born. Using modern CT scans and X-ray imaging, researchers have been able to see through the layers of linen without causing any damage. The results show that Bashiri was a man approximately 5 feet 6 inches tall. Based on the embalming style and decorative details, scholars have dated the mummy to the Ptolemaic period, roughly from the mid-2nd century to the early 3rd century BC. A time when Egyptian mummification art reached its absolute peak. Not only the wrapping technique, but also the decorative motifs on the mummy reveal a great deal. The chest is covered with multiple rows of beads, highlighted by falcon head-shaped clasps, symbols of power and wealth. On the garment appears an image of the deceased lying on a bed, protected by the two goddesses Isis and Nephthys. Nearby are the 4 sons of Horus, the deities who guarded the internal organs in the afterlife. Down at the feet, one can see the image of Anubis, the god of burial rituals. Every small detail indicates that this was a person of exceptionally high status in ancient Egyptian society. Yet paradoxically, there is no official inscription that clearly records his name. The only clue is a hastily written line found in the tomb, which may read either Bashiri, or Neno. To this day, experts have not been able to determine which reading is correct. And so, despite resting in silence for more than 2,300 years, this man continues to keep his identity a secret. Today, the Bashiri mummy is preserved at the Egyptian Museum in Cairo, serving as a living testament to the sophistication and mystery of ancient Egyptian civilization. If you ever have the chance to visit, don't miss the opportunity to see this enigmatic mummy with your own eyes. Who knows? Perhaps you could be the one to uncover something new from this ancient mystery. It's entirely possible. The passage leading to 8 previously unknown chambers beneath Egypt's famous Pyramid of Sahur. There are ancient structures that seem as though time has stripped away all their secrets, yet in reality, they are more like thick books. The more pages you turn, the more unread chapters you discover. The Pyramid of Sahur is exactly such a case. Standing silently for thousands of years amid the desert sun and wind, this monument appeared to be nothing more than mute blocks of stone. However, during what seemed to be a purely technical restoration project, archaeologists unexpectedly uncovered a secret buried deep within the heart of the pyramid, one that caused the entire research community to hold its breath in anticipation. The story began when an Egyptian-German archaeological mission set out to reinforce and restore the internal structure of the Pyramid of Sahur, which had severely deteriorated after millennia of exposure. While clearing debris and surveying damaged areas, they discovered an ancient passageway, nearly swallowed by rubble and sand. This passage had never appeared in any previous archaeological records or maps. Even more astonishing was the fact that it led to a system of 8 completely unknown chambers. The Pyramid of Sahur stands at approximately 157 feet tall, making it one of the well-known pyramids of ancient Egypt. It is located in the Abu Sir Pyramid Field, south of Giza. This pyramid served as the burial place of Pharaoh Sahura, the second ruler of the 5th dynasty, who reigned during the Old Kingdom period, roughly between 2465 and 2325 BC. Mentioning Sahur means recalling an era of prosperity, when Egypt's economy and culture flourished and major trade routes were established, connecting Egypt with distant lands. What intrigues many scholars, however, is that Sahura did not choose traditional royal burial grounds such as Saqqara or Giza. Instead, he built his pyramid in relative isolation at Abu Sir. The reasons behind this decision remain the subject of debate, but it undeniably gave this pharaoh a distinct and lasting legacy. Although it is not as massive as the pyramids of his predecessors, the Pyramid of Sahur stands out for its exceptional craftsmanship and refinement. More than 107,600 square feet of meticulously carved reliefs once covered its walls, depicting religious rituals, scenes of royal life, and maritime trading expeditions. Some of these reliefs are considered by experts to be unparalleled treasures in the history of Egyptian art. Given such an extraordinary level of investment, it is easy to imagine how luxurious the interior of the pyramid must once have been. And it was precisely this splendor that made the site a target for tomb robbers for centuries afterward. Returning to the groundbreaking discovery, while restoring the heavily damaged burial chamber area, scientists accidentally traced the mysterious hidden passage. In order to study it without damaging the ancient structure, the archaeological team, led by Dr. Muhammad Ismail Khalid, employed 3D laser scanning technology using portable LiDAR scanners. This allowed them to create detailed maps of concealed areas inside the pyramid that are inaccessible to the naked eye. At present, the research team has not yet been able to fully explore the depths of the 8 newly discovered chambers. However, they believe that with careful restoration and structural reinforcement, uncovering the entire system is only a matter of time. Given the immense historical value of the Pyramid of Sahur, all activities must prioritize the monument's safety and structural integrity. Archaeologists have also proposed that these mysterious chambers may have served as storage rooms, possibly housing important artifacts connected to Sahur's reign. If this hypothesis is confirmed, future discoveries could significantly deepen our understanding of one of the most glorious periods of ancient Egyptian history. And who knows, perhaps from deep within the heart of that pyramid, history will once again find its voice and tell us another long-forgotten story. Perfectly preserved mummified creature, 30,000 years old, discovered in Canada. In 2018, at the Klondike Goldfields near the town of Dawson in Canada's Yukon region, a gold miner accidentally discovered a small round ball of fur. What no one expected was that this fuzzy sphere turned out to be the mummy of a curled-up Arctic ground squirrel, estimated to be 30,000 years old. The specimen was preserved so remarkably well that scientists could clearly see details such as its fur, tiny claws, and even the delicate shape of its ears and tail. The discovery stunned many experts and opened up a rare opportunity to study animals that lived during the Ice Age. Grant Zazula, a well-known paleontologist in Yukon, shared that at first he did not realize the specimen was a squirrel until he noticed small features such as the hands, claws, and tail. After examining the find, veterinarian Dr. Jess Heath conducted X-ray scans and confirmed that it was a young Arctic ground squirrel. The animal likely attempted to hibernate in its burrow but was buried by snow and died while curled up. What makes this discovery especially remarkable is that despite having passed 30,000 years, the squirrel remained almost perfectly intact thanks to the ideal conditions of the permafrost, as if it had been stored in a prehistoric freezer. Arctic ground squirrels, a species that still exists in Yukon today, typically build underground nests to hibernate. However, finding one preserved in such a complete state is extremely rare, as most Ice Age squirrel burrows have left behind only traces or skeletal remains. Discovering an animal with its face, skin, and fur appearing almost as if it had died recently filled Zazula with excitement. According to him, this is not only a significant scientific discovery, but also one that helps humanity better understand how animals lived during the Ice Age. The Klondike region, where the mummy was found, was once covered by permafrost during that period. It was likely the intense cold and thick layers of ice and snow that preserved ancient creatures so well, from hair and claws to other delicate body parts. 3,000-year-old cemetery reveals the truth about the Bible's most infamous people. For the first time in history, archaeologists have uncovered a cemetery belonging to the Philistine people, containing approximately 200 sets of human remains, and that detail alone was enough to leave the academic world momentarily stunned. For thousands of years, the Philistines had existed largely on paper, confined to biased and often contradictory accounts found in the Bible. Now, they are no longer figures of legend or hearsay, but real people who lay silently beneath the earth for nearly 3,000 years. The discovery actually began in 1985, when an archaeological team led by architect Lawrence Steger initiated excavations and uncovered this remarkable burial ground. Initial analyses indicate that all of the remains date back roughly 3 millennia. What makes this find especially significant is that prior to this, no confirmed Philistine human remains had ever been discovered. To put it lightly, it is like reading a book hundreds of pages long and only now, for the first time, finally meeting the author in person. Lawrence Steger once noted that the Philistines have carried a heavy burden of infamy throughout history. In the Bible, they are often portrayed as the sworn enemies of the ancient Israelites and are depicted in an overwhelmingly negative light. For this reason, the discovery has been widely expected to put an end to many long-standing and unfair legends that have followed the Philistines for centuries. In this sense, archaeology sometimes resembles a fair courtroom, one in which history is finally allowed to tell its side of the story. Even more remarkable is the fact that this discovery was only officially announced after the excavation process, which lasted 30 years, had come to an end. 30 years, long enough for an entire generation to grow up, start families, and raise children. While beneath the ground, the Philistines patiently waited for modern humanity to finally knock on their door. After decades of studying the Philistines through written texts alone, scientists can now engage with them directly through their physical remains. In modern culture, the term Philistine has even come to describe people who are seen as uneducated, shallow, or indifferent to art. Yet what was uncovered in this cemetery tells a very different story. Through the graves, archaeologists were able to clearly identify Philistine burial customs. The dead were often buried with a bottle of scented oil placed near the face, while wine or food was set near the feet, suggesting a thoughtful preparation for the journey into the afterlife. Beyond that, many of the remains were buried with jewelry such as necklaces, bracelets, earrings, and anklets. Some individuals were even laid to rest alongside weapons, indicating their roles and social status during life. Notably, archaeologists also discovered containers holding the remains of infants, offering a deeply human glimpse into a community that once lived, loved, suffered loss, and buried its dead just like any other society. To this day, scholars continue to debate the origins of the Philistine people. Some theories suggest they came from Greece, while others point to Cyprus or Turkey. Studying these remains may ultimately be the key to resolving this long-standing debate. Until then, all we can do is wait patiently as history slowly reveals its answers. 200,000-year-old burial not created by our species. In June 2024, an excavation in South Africa sent shockwaves through the scientific community with the discovery of a cluster of ancient graves containing the remains of a strange prehistoric human species. These remains did not belong to Homo sapiens, the species we belong to, but to Homo naledi, an ancient human relative that looked somewhat similar to us, yet possessed many distinctly different traits. These beings lived in trees and had brains much smaller than ours, making the discovery a major turning point in our understanding of human evolution. The remains were found at a depth of approximately 98 feet underground within the Cradle of Humankind cave system, near Johannesburg, South Africa, a site recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. What makes these graves so surprising is not only their existence, but what they reveal. Burial behavior appeared far earlier than previously believed. Researchers led by Dr. Lee Berger of the University of the Witwatersrand suggest that these burials may date back roughly 200,000 years, at least 100,000 years earlier than the earliest known evidence of burial practices associated with Homo sapiens. Homo naledi had a brain roughly the size of an orange and stood about 4 feet 11 inches tall. Their bodies retained many ape-like characteristics, with arms and legs not fully suited for tool use or complex behaviors such as digging graves. Despite this, the act of burial carried out by this species indicates that their cognitive abilities and social behaviors were far more complex than previously assumed. Notably, the practice of deliberately burying the dead was long thought to be a behavior unique to modern humans. Yet Homo naledi appears to have exhibited this behavior at a very early stage in human evolution. This discovery raises profound questions about how human evolution unfolded, suggesting that it may not have followed a straight line, but rather a complex network of branches, where species like Homo naledi achieved advanced levels of social and cognitive behavior before eventually becoming extinct. This research is also reshaping how we view ancient human species, particularly behaviors that were once considered exclusive to Homo sapiens. To gain deeper insight into human development and burial practices, scientists continue to excavate and study these sites within the Rising Star Cave system. This location is already famous for discoveries of ancient human relatives and promises to reveal even more surprises about the story of our evolution. The mysterious circles of the Namib Desert. The Namib Desert is the largest desert in Namibia, a country in Africa where sun and wind dominate year-round, and the land is so dry that even grass seems to need permission from the weather to grow. Yet right in the middle of this landscape, where one would expect to find nothing but sand and stone, thousands of strange circles appear, evenly distributed across patches of withered grass. When viewed from above, they look exactly as if someone had used a giant compass to draw perfect circles across the desert. These mysterious circles have puzzled scientists since the 1970s. Despite continuous advances in science, from bulky early computers to modern satellites, the question "who created these circles?" still has no definitive answer. In 2014, the mystery grew even more intriguing when similar circles were discovered near the mining town of Newman in Western Australia. The two locations lie nearly half a world apart, yet the circles look astonishingly alike. Even so, it is the circles in Namibia that have remained the primary focus of scientific attention for decades. Of course, science is not the only source of explanations. Local people have their own interpretations, rich in imagination and perfectly suited for storytelling around a campfire. One legend claims the circles are places where fairies dance at night, and wherever they spin, the grass is forced to retreat. Others believe that UFOs once landed in the desert, leaving behind flawless circular marks before taking off again. It may sound far-fetched, but in the vast emptiness of the desert, who can truly say what is impossible? As for scientists, they naturally stop short of fairies and flying saucers. One widely accepted hypothesis suggests that termites are the main culprits. These insects build their nests beneath the circles and interact with the surrounding vegetation. When termite colonies of similar size expand and encounter one another, they cannot eliminate their rivals, so they form buffer zones between them, areas free of termites. As a result, barren patches of land emerge, looking as though they have been neatly cleared in an organized pattern. Another, more subtle hypothesis proposes that the circles are the result of competition among plants in an environment where water is extremely scarce. Plants provide shade and help retain moisture in the soil, but at the same time, they inhibit the growth of other plants nearby. To survive, they extend their roots outward in circular patterns, drawing water from a shared underground source. Over time, the central area becomes bare, while the surrounding ring supports greener, healthier grass. Some researchers have also suspected a connection between the circles and toxic euphorbia shrubs that once grew in the Namib. Remnants of these plants have been found inside some of the circles, adding yet another layer of intrigue to the mystery. But this brings us back to the same old question. Is any single hypothesis entirely correct, or is the truth a combination of several factors at once? A recent study of similar circles in Australia offers yet another perspective. The findings suggest that termites are not the sole cause. Abiotic processes such as mechanical weathering of the soil, heavy rainfall during storms, extreme temperatures, and intense evaporation also contribute to the formation of these barren patches. And so, to this day, the mystery of the strange circles in the Namib Desert remains unsolved. Although science has advanced far beyond what it was in the 1970s, nature may still be smiling quietly, keeping one of its secrets, reminding us that not every puzzle on Earth is easily decoded by humanity. 2,200 pounds, mysterious object discovered beneath the foundation of a house in Indonesia. On an ordinary morning in a quiet rural area of central Java, Indonesia, the steady sound of hoes and shovels echoed as soil was lifted from the ground, just like at any other house construction site. No one could have imagined that after only a few strikes of the shovel, the entire neighborhood would turn into a hotspot, drawing hundreds of curious onlookers. Then the unimaginable happened. At a depth of about 3 feet underground, construction workers preparing the foundation for a row of townhouses suddenly struck a strange object. At first, they simply assumed it was a large water pipe, perhaps part of an old pipeline left behind from years past. But as they continued digging, a rounded shape slowly emerged. It was not a pipe at all, but a massive metal object, resembling a deep cauldron straight out of a legend. When the entire cauldron was finally lifted out of the ground, the neighborhood instantly erupted with excitement. Children cheered, adults snapped photos and recorded videos non-stop. Stories and theories about the mysterious object's origin spread rapidly. Some guessed it was an ancient cooking vessel. Others believed it to be a sacred treasure from the era of ancient Javanese kingdoms. No one knew for sure. What amazed everyone most was that after lying underground for hundreds of years, the object remained almost perfectly intact. The land where the artifact was found belongs to a local businessman named Widodo, who had purchased the property years earlier. After leaving it vacant for 3 years, he never imagined that beneath the soil lay a millennia-old heritage. Planning to build a new home for his son's upcoming wedding, he unexpectedly ended up excavating a forgotten piece of history. As soon as the news spread, Indonesia's Cultural Heritage Authority immediately dispatched experts to the site. To prevent any potential damage, the entire construction area was sealed off and work was temporarily halted. After taking measurements, specialists determined that the cauldron stands about 4.6 feet tall, is nearly 9.8 feet wide, and has walls up to 14 inches thick. What surprised everyone most was that despite its enormous appearance, it was not as heavy as expected. Just 4 adults were able to move it. Despite often being described as weighing about roughly 2,200 pounds, its balance and structure made relocation possible. Researchers believe the object is likely a historical artifact hundreds of years old, possibly a massive cooking vessel once used to serve food at an ancient military camp. Remarkably, despite being buried for so long, it suffered almost no damage, aside from a thin layer of rust. This raises a major question. What material was it made of to be so incredibly durable? This is where modern technology enters the story. Indonesia is now at the forefront of applying artificial intelligence and digital technology to archaeology. From using AI to analyze images, to machine learning for artifact identification, everything is being digitized and processed with unprecedented accuracy. Deep learning algorithms are even used to create 3D models of artifacts, allowing experts to examine the smallest details without physically touching them. Beyond that, photogrammetry-based digital scanning is being used to reconstruct and preserve ancient objects in entirely new ways. In regions such as Yogyakarta, archaeologists even deploy drones and satellite imagery to map archaeological layers, helping identify promising sites without unnecessary digging. Imagine this. In the near future, you could step into a virtual archaeological site using VR technology, walk among ancient ruins, view this giant cauldron up close, rotate it 360 degrees, and examine every trace of rust without ever being there in person. Ancient mysteries and long-forgotten stories are now being retold using the most advanced technology humanity has ever developed. It truly is remarkable. What makes the story even more heartwarming is that Widodo, the landowner, decided to donate the cauldron to researchers for study and cultural preservation. It was a noble act in a time driven by money, when many people might have chosen to keep or even sell such an artifact for personal gain. That cauldron may have once been just an ordinary object, or it could be the last surviving piece of a lost civilization. But more importantly, it stands as a symbol of the connection between past and present, history and technology, and humanity and the secrets still hidden beneath the earth. Do you think so too? Let me know by leaving a comment below this video. 5,500-year-old stone gate, proof of the remarkable intelligence of ancient people. A 5,500-year-old city gate. Just hearing that number alone is enough to make anyone rub their eyes in disbelief, right? And no, you're not mistaken. At Tel Arani in Israel, archaeologists have indeed uncovered a city gate that dates back 5,500 years, far more impressive than anything previously imagined for such early settlements. So if anyone still thinks ancient people only built mud huts and barely scraped by, this discovery delivers a powerful historical plot twist. What makes the gate at Tel Arani truly special is its construction material. Instead of mud bricks, the most common building material of the time, this gate was built from massive stone blocks, clearly reflecting the advanced engineering skills of the early Bronze Age. Just imagine it. More than 5 millennia ago, without cranes, trucks, or concrete mixers, people were still able to transport and precisely stack these enormous stones. That achievement alone is enough to earn the deep respect of later generations. Architecturally, the gate stands about 5 feet tall, featuring a stone-paved passageway cutting through the city wall, flanked on both sides by 2 solid stone guard towers. Looking at this structure, it's not hard to picture guards standing watch from above, monitoring everything that entered or left the city. Put simply, this was the ancient equivalent of a security checkpoint, designed both for defense and to send a clear message. This city was not to be taken lightly. What makes the discovery even more intriguing is that at Tel Arani, archaeologists also uncovered another gate built of mud bricks, constructed in the typical style of the period. At first, many assumed the 2 gates belonged to different time periods. However, after carefully analyzing pottery fragments found along the gates, researchers determined that both structures were in use at the same time. This raises an important question. Why would 2 gates, built with different materials and architectural styles, exist simultaneously? The answer may lie in the special role of the stone gate. It was not merely a defensive structure, but also a symbol of political, social, and economic power, dating to a period when Upper and Lower Egypt were gradually unifying. This unification marked a major turning point, bringing the early Bronze Age to a close. The stone gate, with its monumental scale and durability, appears to have served as a silent declaration of Tel Arani's regional importance at the time. This discovery is considered the first large gate of its kind from the early Bronze Age ever found, making its historical value immense. Constructing the gate and the surrounding city walls would have required quarrying stone from distant locations, producing mud bricks, organizing labor, and maintaining a high level of administrative coordination. All of this indicates that Tel Arani was not a small or isolated settlement, but a well-organized center with significant influence. In fact, the history of Tel Arani stretches back to the Paleolithic period, though its most intensive development occurred during the Bronze Age. Pottery discovered at the site reveals active trade connections with nearby regions such as the Negev and the Judean Desert. In other words, Tel Arani was not only capable of building massive gates and thick walls, it was also deeply engaged in regional commerce and exchange. And that 5,500-year-old stone gate now stands as a silent witness to a brilliant chapter of human history that has long since passed. 2,000-year-old lump of butter still edible after being buried in a bog. A 2,000-year-old lump of butter that is still intact and technically edible. Just hearing that sentence, many people might think I'm making things up. But believe it or not, this story is absolutely real, and it's so astonishing that it has made both archaeologists and history enthusiasts rub their eyes in disbelief. The story begins in the most ordinary way possible, when a group of workers were cutting turf in a peat bog in Ireland. No treasure, no gold or silver, yet what they unearthed added a surprising new layer to our understanding of history. Buried about 13 feet beneath the surface of the bog, near the town of Dracharath, roughly 50 miles north of Dublin, they discovered a massive lump of butter in an almost perfectly preserved condition. According to descriptions, the butter had a smell similar to that of aged cheese, a strong, pungent aroma that might sound overwhelming, but for true food lovers can evoke powerful memories. Experts quickly determined that the butter was around 2,000 years old. Yes, a full 2 millennia, far older than many structures we commonly describe as ancient. What astonished researchers was not just its age, but its remarkable state of preservation. According to specialists, the butter showed almost no signs of decomposition. Andy Halpin, an expert at the National Museum of Ireland, who was directly involved in analyzing and dating the find, explained that this was not butter buried for later consumption. In fact, dairy products buried in this way were never meant to be retrieved. The most widely supported theory is that the butter was deliberately buried in the bog as a ritual offering to the gods. What makes this even more intriguing is that the butter was not wrapped or placed in any container, which is normally the case when food is stored. This strongly suggests that the burial was ceremonial rather than an ancient version of food refrigeration. According to Halpin, in ancient belief systems, bogs were seen as extremely mysterious, difficult to access places imbued with spiritual significance. The bog where the butter was found lies at the intersection of 3 ancient kingdoms, functioning as a kind of liminal zone, not fully belonging to the human world. Put simply, it was the sort of place ancient people believed the gods might pass through, making it a fitting location for valuable offerings. This is not the first time archaeologists have discovered butter in Irish bogs. In the past, researchers have documented hundreds of similar butter deposits, some placed inside wooden containers and buried alongside swords, wooden objects, and decorative items that were still remarkably intact. However, this particular find stands out. It had no container, no protective wrapping, and yet it survived 2 full millennia exposed directly to the bog environment. The secret behind this extraordinary preservation lies in a type of moss called sphagnum, which is extremely common in Irish bogs. This moss grows over and envelops objects beneath it, creating a cool, oxygen-poor environment where bacteria can barely survive. As a result, the bog effectively acts as a highly efficient natural freezer, halting the process of decay. In theory, experts acknowledge that the butter could still be edible. In practice, however, they have been quick to offer a very clear warning. This is one mystery that no one should be brave or foolish enough to taste. After all, eating a 2,000-year-old piece of butter, even one preserved by nature itself, is an experience most people would probably rather admire from a distance. Wouldn't you agree? Special weapon from outer space. Archaeologists have recently discovered a metal arrowhead at the Morrigan archaeological site in Switzerland, and remarkably, it was made from a meteorite that came from outer space. Yes, you heard that right. And the story is even more fascinating than it sounds, revealing just how sophisticated our ancestors truly were. If we rewind the clock thousands of years, to a time when humans had not yet learned how to smelt iron from natural ores, archaeological records already show the presence of iron artifacts. However, this was not ordinary iron. It was iron of extraterrestrial origin. Not because aliens visited Earth and left their belongings behind, but because meteorites fell from the sky and inadvertently became a kind of free metal resource for prehistoric people. After all, when metal literally falls from the heavens, why not pick it up and put it to use? In fact, meteoritic iron was used by ancient civilizations in many parts of the world. Archaeologists have uncovered ritual swords, figurines, and jewelry made from this unusual metal in regions such as Turkey, Greece, Syria, Indonesia, China, and North Africa. Even more striking, in a burial site dating back about 6,000 years, researchers discovered an entire collection of meteoritic iron beads, a find that predates Egypt's Iron Age by roughly 2,000 years. It's hard not to admire how far ahead of their time these ancient people truly were. However, in Central and Western Europe, evidence of meteoritic iron use has long been surprisingly limited. For many years, scientists knew of only two meteorite-based artifacts in the region, a bracelet and an axe, both found in Poland. That is why the discovery of an additional artifact, an arrowhead believed to be made from meteoritic iron, immediately captured the attention of the scientific community. To determine the arrowhead's origin, researchers employed a wide range of modern technologies, including electron microscopy, X-ray imaging, and high-energy radiation analysis. The results showed that the arrowhead was made from an iron-nickel-aluminum alloy, a composition that is highly characteristic of meteoritic iron. These findings were then compared with known meteorite samples, and gradually, the mystery began to unfold. Interestingly, this arrowhead was not newly excavated. It was actually part of a collection of bronze arrowheads discovered at the Morrigan site more than 100 years ago, and it has been housed ever since in the Bern Historical Museum. Only with the advancement of modern scientific techniques were researchers able to re-examine the collection and realize that one of the arrowheads quite literally came from outer space. The Morrigan site itself is a late Bronze Age lakeside settlement that has long intrigued researchers, especially because a meteorite fall had occurred nearby. The Twanberg meteorite, consisting of 3 large fragments, is considered the largest meteorite ever found in Switzerland. Initially, scientists suspected that the arrowhead had been made from a small fragment of this meteorite. However, chemical analysis showed that the composition did not match, forcing researchers to broaden their search. The real surprise came when the nickel and germanium content of the Morrigan arrowhead turned out to closely match that of the Kallajärv meteorite in Estonia, a country along the Baltic Sea. This meteorite struck the Earth about 3,500 years ago, during the Bronze Age, and shattered into many small fragments. Such fragments would have been far easier for ancient people to collect and use than large meteorite masses buried deep underground. This discovery also reveals something deeply thought-provoking. There likely existed a prehistoric trade network spanning much of Europe, connecting regions as distant as Estonia and Switzerland. Through this network, ancient peoples exchanged amber as gemstones, flint for tool-making, and even meteoritic iron, a rare and valuable metal that literally fell from the sky. Researchers hope that future studies will uncover more such artifacts hidden within existing archaeological collections, helping to further expand our understanding of these astonishing space weapons crafted by prehistoric humans. And of course, for someone passionate about archaeological discoveries like myself, this story is nothing short of captivating. 4,000-year-old tomb reveals a secret that shook the world. On what seemed like an ordinary morning in the coastal town of Selji, where the waves of the North Sea gently wash against the southwestern coast of Norway, an unexpected archaeological excavation opened a gateway through time, transporting scientists nearly 4,000 years into the past. The discovery occurred when construction workers began digging the foundation for a new hotel and unexpectedly struck a stone tomb that had lain silently beneath the ground for millennia. Archaeologists were immediately called to the site, where they uncovered one of the best-preserved Neolithic tombs ever found in this region. The tomb has a distinctive structure, built entirely of stone, measuring approximately 10 feet long, 5 feet wide, and nearly 3.3 feet high. Inside, it is divided into 2 chambers, suggesting a carefully organized and deliberately designed final resting place. Initial analysis revealed the remains of at least 5 individuals, including an elderly man suffering from arthritis, a young woman, and 2 small children. Notably, 2 of the skeletons had been moved aside, as if to make room for later burials, strong evidence that the tomb was used multiple times and may have held family or ritual significance. Radiocarbon dating indicates that the tomb was constructed between 2140 and 2000 BCE, a period when this region was transitioning from a hunter-gatherer society to early agriculture. This interpretation was reinforced by nearby discoveries, including the remains of prehistoric houses, animal bones, small seashells, and most notably, a stone tool shaped like a sickle, which may have been used for harvesting grain. This finding provides compelling evidence for the presence of some of the earliest farmers in Selji, people who settled, cultivated the land, and lived here nearly 4 millennia ago. The sickle-shaped tool not only reflects early technological development, but also marks a major shift in lifestyle, from nomadic survival to permanent settlement. These communities no longer relied solely on hunting and gathering. Instead, they began practicing agriculture and animal husbandry, and, perhaps most importantly, formed closely connected societies with social structures and belief systems clearly reflected in the care they gave to their dead. The ancient tomb was not merely a burial site. It stands as a powerful testament to beliefs in an afterlife, respect for ancestors, and family bonds that extended beyond death itself. Today, experts are conducting DNA analysis on at least 5 of the recovered skeletons, hoping to uncover more details about their identities, genetic relationships, health conditions, and diets. When combined with archaeological evidence, this genetic data may offer a far more complete picture of prehistoric life along the northern European coast, a place where every patch of ground now seems capable of opening a door to the distant past. Once a quiet seaside town, Celje has now become a focal point on the map of European archaeology, as an ancient story slowly unfolds, not through written words, but through bones, stones, and simple tools, left behind by a civilization long lost in the mist of time. Dear friends, across thousands of years, there are mysteries that remain unsolved to this day. So, among all the discoveries we've just explored, which one impressed you the most? Please leave your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to give us a like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any of our upcoming fascinating discoveries. For now, goodbye, and we'll see you again soon.